Well, I guess we've seen a lot of fear in markets this year. So you've seen quite a bit of volatility, and volatility really pick up since January of this year. And it's been driven by a lot of political issues and concerns around trade, concerns around inflation, rising interest rates, what that means for markets. What I would say about what we've seen travelling around the world is that the actual underlying economies are still strong. So companies are still seeing strong demand for their products. We're seeing pretty healthy GDP growth, but both in the Western world, but emerging markets actually still growing very strongly. So I was in India a month ago. We had a couple of the team members in Asia and China, and we're seeing still very strong growth rates out of those regions. Investing globally, out of Sydney, for instance, you've really got to go overseas to see these businesses, to see management teams, to see the competitors, and just basically see how the consumers are behaving, and take a view as to whether those products or services that the company's selling will do well over time. So I think it's critical that you get on the ground and really visit those businesses and see them operate in their home markets. Cultures are very different, and so it's really hard to know or understand global businesses without travelling the world. In terms of then taking the next step to understand those businesses, it's a huge advantage to go and sit down with the management teams and the CEOs of these businesses, hear them talk to you about what they're seeing and how they want to take their business and what their strategy is, and then quizzing them on the detail of their business to really understand whether there are any risks or what the key issues are. Sure, so I guess one example would be Mondelez, where we sort of visited. We went to a consumer conference in the US, and they're one of the large consumer players. They're a global snacking business. So they own brands like Oreo, Milka, Trident, Ritz crackers, Toblerone. So huge array of different sort of snacking products, but mainly focused on biscuits and chocolate. And so sitting here in Australia, you're not really going to know how their chocolate bar in the US is going, or how milk is going in Europe. But I sort of travelled to the US. I went to India. Interestingly, for Mondelez, they own the Cadbury brand, and Cadbury has 2/3 market share of chocolate in India. So when people in India ask for a chocolate, they actually ask for a Cadbury, not a chocolate. And just to see the immaturity of that marketplace, and how much growth potential there is. How cheap the consumer products are in India, you can see how much growth potential there will be over 20-30 years in terms of pricing and just increased penetration of their products. So just travelling around the world, it was really intriguing to see how their products are positioned in different countries, but then also seeing the CEO present at a conference in the US, gave me a lot more comfort as to the trajectory that he wants to take the business, and the potential for margin improvement and earnings growth over the next 5-10 years.